folks, this is all the fruit, and today I'm foraging and fruit hunting around the little town of Bad Bergzabern in the state of Baden-Württemberg. In the state of Rheinland-Pfalz in Germany. Well, from the gloomy weather and all the conifers, you might think this is like a rainy mountain place, but actually no, this is situated on the Weinstraße, which is considered like the Provence or California of Germany. Actually no, California of Germany is considered to be a slightly different spot, but this place is basically considered to be the Provence, to be the Toscana of Germany. It's the main wine producing area in Germany with a already sub-Mediterranean climate and lots of southern plants. Well, this is not a southern plant, Acer saharinum, the second most important sugar maple in America after Acer saharum. The amount of sugar syrup gained from Acer saharinum is smaller, but of much higher quality than Acer saharum. Also here cherry plum, Prunus cerasifera, and the feral cherry, actually a bunch of feral or maybe even planted cherries, Prunus avium, and the toxic yew. The yew at least should be in season, but it isn't. Bad Bergzabern has a spa. Actually, Bad in Germany means bath or bathroom, and if you have some mineral spring or some other stuff like good climate or spa facilities and a spa, your city can actually, or your city or town or village can get the name Bad. And Bad Bergzabern means this is a spa town. Everything has been pruned severely, but they have left a couple berries on the fire thorn. Sour and a little bit bland, but not too bad. And here I saw some ornamental apple. I don't think they are 100% ripe, but those are not bland. Really sour. And look at that, portobello mushrooms or champignons, the genus Agaricus. I thought this would be Agaricus urbanus, species of portobello mushroom, adapted to urban climate, but no. Don't worry, they're edible raw. This could be Agaricus campestris, the normal field and meadow portobello mushroom. Here we have the Kur Park or Spa Park. Very important part of every German spa town. And for me, this might be the most important part of the town. Well, first because in such small parks and villages usually, in such small towns and villages usually you don't have big parks. Look at that. The place is surrounded by forests on one side, by vineyards and fields on the other side, which you cannot see here, small town, so they will not have a lot of big parks, but if you are a bud, you need a spa park. And I knew about Bad Bergzabern because even in the 90s they had a Mediterranean garden here with a lot of stuff which back then, 30 years ago, was, I wouldn't say completely unheard of, but yes, more or less unheard of here in Germany. I think the Mediterranean garden should be somewhere here, but except for the lavender, I don't see anything Mediterranean right now. No, actually the Mediterranean garden should be over there, but here are already some artichokes planted as an ornamental, I guess, and almost but not quite forgotten. So this is supposed to be the Mediterranean garden. They have a couple peach almonds. They call them almonds here, but they are peach almonds, very popular in this area to give the place a Mediterranean climate. Cypress, a monk's pepper, different types of catnip. Okay, this is a Mediterranean Viburnum tinus. Okay, Judas tree, this is also native to the Mediterranean. A little bit disappointed, folks. 25 years ago when I read this thing from the 90s, I wanted to visit this place. But, this Mediterranean garden is... I wanted to make a dedicated video about this Mediterranean garden because I hope to find a lot of Mediterranean trees which are quite old for German standards because it was made in the last century, but nope. A fig tree, well, they have a nice fruit orchard. All this area seems to be a fruit orchard. And there seems to be quite a big herbal garden over there. Well, maybe not quite a big, but it is a herbal garden. Willkommen auf der Streuobstwiese von Bad Bergzabern. Welcome in the fruit orchard of Bad Bergzabern. Here is the herbal garden. Let's see if we are lucky. This is gonna be some Asian barberry species. They are very tasty. Indeed, this does not seem to be, well, sourdorn. Yes, sourdorn is a German name for bearberries. But Berberis vulgaris, the German bearberries, or the European one, which the Germans put in big efforts in eradicating, usually taste sour and bitter. However, here we are lucky. This is a super tasty sour species or variety. I should get some of those later. Starting to rain. Well, anyway, I have to visit a friend who is currently in treatment in the spa, so yeah, I can take a short stop from the filming, and instead I wouldn't have come here without a friend. It's a little bit remote, and the list of the Mediterranean plants from the Mediterranean trees and shrubs from the 90s was not that impressive. I always wanted to find this Mediterranean garden, but good that I didn't come here just for the garden, because it would have been a big disappointment. Now at least I have more important business to attend. Okay, the rain has almost stopped. Let's see what else we can grab. Since we are here in one of the mildest areas of Germany, the forests are full of chestnuts, and here is a feral chestnut. I'm sure the hazelnut bushes were planted here as ornamentals, but the chestnut is feral because nobody would have planted a chestnut right between the hazelnuts, but the chestnuts are not ripe yet. The hazelnuts are more or less in season, but there seems to be some very busy animal around here collecting them. In Heidelberg, it would be probably a parrot. The smaller of those nuts, well, this is very light. This one is heavy. Never crack nuts with your teeth, folks. Good quality, tasty seed. In Heidelberg, most of them are infected by some disease and taste bitter. A peach tree, no, ornamental variety with purplish leaves. The beech nuts are edible. and they seem to be in season. As you can see from the fruit, it looks like a chestnut. Yeah, only it's not spiny, but no, those peach nuts are empty, nothing inside. Maybe the tree's dropping the bad fruits first. Oh, blue plums. Okay, I'm gonna get my feet wet, really wet. Yeah. But for a couple blue plums, not on the ground. Oh, a lot more. No, rotten. This could be good. Tastes almost like a baked plum. This one is good. Overripe, but still edible. Yeah, they are not even extremely sweet, despite the fact that August was hot and dry. Edible, but not more. When I look around the other fruit trees, too late for the plums, not in time yet for most apples, no tasty pears, a lot of those tall peach almonds. Here we have a couple apples, but probably they won't be very good yet. This herbal garden, I wanted to make a specific video on it, but kinda, I mean, it's okay, but it's nothing spectacular. Well maintained, but not too many different plants here. Let's harvest the barberries. I collected probably around a kilogram of those. Yeah, well, yeah, maybe not quite, 800-900 grams. And as you can see, the shrubs are still covered in red fruits, so the birds and other little animals are gonna have enough. Beautiful spa park, but for me it's a little bit of a disappointment, because those spa parks are usually among the most diverse and interesting parks in Germany, and especially since, yeah, I saw this list from the 1990s where they were zone pushing or trying to grow. Oh, look at that, Phytolacca esculenta, the Asian pokeweed. Not as toxic as the American, but not truly edible. Well, those spa parks, this spa park was really, the list was quite nice of those Mediterranean plants. Oh, look at that. Yeah, wild boars. Only statues, but still. So I hope for a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, it's slightly more interesting than the average small town park, but not as diverse as some other spa parks I've seen. Hamamelis, magic nut, very important medicine, traditional and modern, and also you can do magic with the nuts. They open and close very quickly if you change moisture and temperature around them. Well, this one is not in a good shape. I doubt it's gonna do the trick. But in winter you put them in your pocket, they open, and then you will take them out, they close, and so on. Here is something very interesting, a lot of quite sizable cacti. Choya, Cylindropuntia, what would this be? Cylindropuntia tunicata or something? Oh, really spiny, this body. Yeah, the fruits are not great, they are edible, but nothing I would forage for. But this shows you that the German climate is actually quite okay for some cacti. Basically, this is quite a dry area around here, and they've put a lot of gravel for drainage. And so cacti and yuccas, this is a yucca with long leaves. Here some other yucca relative. Here we have a different, no, the same Cylindropuntia, but see this red fruit? That's the fruit of a Platopuntia. However, which one? Also the fruits are not really top quality. Nah, and they are not ripe. And I already have glockets in my fingers. No, I'm not harvesting those. I'll get a little bit of probably quite boring pulp. And for that I'll have my hands, and if I'm very unlucky, also my mouth full with glockets. Here is a different type of choya. It's not pencil choya, because pencil choya has even thinner branches and smaller fruits. But I'm not familiar with this species. With this one I'm quite familiar. I've seen it several times also in Germany. But can you tell me what type of Cylindropuntia this one is? A lot of much thinner stems, much smaller fruits. Could it be a hybrid? Probably there are enough species that can look like this. Yeah, please tell me, folks. Also, this here has very decorative clusters of fruits. Also, it's so gloomy that all the time it seems like it's gonna get dark soon, but it's still quite early. It was like this even before I went into the hospital. Cana edulis, by the way. The edulis refers to the edible tubers, but flowers and fruits are also edible. And here is Saskatoon, which is in season in spring. Couple black locust trees, invasive, incredibly good timber, fertilizing the ground, and each part is toxic except for the flowers, which are really tasty and nutritious. Here is sorbus, probably Sorbus aria or Sorbus intermedia, I always confuse them. The ripe fruits can be eaten and can be dried to be used as a kind of sweetish flour which you can use to make breads and cakes and other things. Quite frost and drought resistant, so it was quite an important survival and sustenance fruit in older times. Nowadays, almost nobody is using it because I guess the taste is just too boring. Black nightshade. This year, those things have a bumper crop. It tastes like nice sweet tomatoes. Good stuff. Yeah, the first half of the year was very rainy. So there was enough water for plants and fruits to develop to a good size, and then August was hot and sunny. So now they taste quite good. The last 2 weeks were quite rainy, but they're still good. And here, Oregon grapes. They are not very good for your digestive system when raw, but when you cook them, they're close relative of the berberis, the Mahonia. Similar taste, but not that exquisite. But when you cook them, you can make a lot of good stuff out of them. Just don't eat them raw in any significant amounts. An olive tree planted in this garden. Yeah, we are here just like Heidelberg, in some of the warmest climates in Germany. It's one of the mildest climates, not the mildest. It's one of the warmest, almost the warmest. So hot summers, mild winters, very good combination. And so a lot of Mediterranean and sub-Mediterranean plants are grown here. Even traditionally stuff like chestnuts, almonds and wine, which don't grow in other parts of Germany, at least not before the climate change. And a lot of modern things. Let's see how many we can find. Laurel cherry. Profited a lot from the climate change. This was introduced in the area over 400 years ago, but before 2000 it didn't escape into the wild. After 2000 it started escaping the fruit. Are a bit astringent, and they are toxic when not fully ripe. Some people say they are toxic even when fully ripe, but those taste good at least. We are getting into the old part of town, advertising its wine growing tradition with those vines. The towns here in the area, we are in the border area between Germany and France, so this area changed hands a lot of times. So in the old houses you will see a lot of French influences. Here a walnut tree. Fortunately nowadays most of them have got a disease so that the shell doesn't get perfectly clean in most fruits. But this is a good quality fruit despite being so small. The shell is thin and thus easy to crack. If they were also big, I would harvest a bunch. Here a beautiful old house with this typical style from, what would this be? Sometime in the 19th century. This was made for the stone to look nice, beautiful. Well, here you have the old walls. When they did have money, they would put plaster on the walls. Here originally the stone was just made to create the wall. Later the wall was kind of cleaned and restored, and now the rocks are the aesthetic part. But this one was even originally created for the rocks to provide the visual effect. Church and a fancy house, probably the priest's house. Also, this was never intended to be covered with plaster. The typical red sandstone of the area was used to create the visual effect. In this house you can clearly see French influences. Also this one, every time I see this more pale sandstone it reminds me more of France, maybe because they have more areas with the pale sandstone, but it's clearly a German building, Amtsgericht. This is the, what would you call it, it's some type of court, but Amtsgericht I cannot translate it right now. But enough of the, somebody's going to court. Enough of the architecture, let's find something forageable. In the background looks strange. I hope that could be a kaki or even a pawpaw. It seems that it's just a slightly strange looking bird cherry. But you have to check each one. 10-20 times you get disappointed and then buff, you hit the jackpot. Just like with the spearberries. The last 10-20 ones I tried, probably spit them out because they were bitter and sour, and now I got lucky. Also here you can catch a glimpse of the vineyards around Bad Bergzabern. Between Mainz and the French border, over 100 kilometers, there is basically one continuous vineyard, just interrupted by settlements and roads and railroads. No other plants grow there. Well, no other agriculture exists there, no forest. Oh, ja.
Gibt's hier ein Zentrum? So.
Ein Zentrum, was suchen Sie denn genau? Ich bin nicht von hier, aber...
Ja, wir wollten einfach mal die Innenstadt besichtigen.
Oh, die Innenstadt. Ich glaube, das ist hier so ein Stückchen nach links, aber ich kann es dir nicht sagen, ich bin nicht von hier, sorry. Bitte, ciao. Some other strangers, they wanted to see the city center or the town center, but I couldn't help them because I'm a stranger too. Cotoneaster, a couple different species, hybrids, varieties, very small fruits. Both are more or less of the horizontalis persuasion. The fruit tastes boring, like boring apples with seeds inside. With hard seeds inside. Now in September, at the height of the fruit season, you wouldn't look at them a second time, but they might look the same in January, February, March, April. And this is the time where you basically find no other fruits in Germany, except after extremely mild winters or other strange circumstances, or if you are really good at finding fruits. But this stuff you'll find all around the year. So in the season where there are almost no fruits, this stuff suddenly becomes a forageable asset. Well, here I see a piece of the old city wall or town wall. I should have, well, I sent them this way. I told them I think the old town is this way, but I wasn't sure. But now I want to see it too. Rosa rugosa. The German call it potato rose, rugosa or rugose. Also refers to the leaves, just like the name potato rose. The fruits can be 3 times the size. They are delicious. Have a lot of flesh. Unlike other rose hips, which are very small with almost no edible flesh. I wonder why nobody names it after the big fruits. As I said, those are really small. Good stuff. The edible flesh is several millimeters thick. Well, here, those small ones are from the canine group. Edible flesh probably about a millimeter thick. You know what's better than rose hips? Huge figs. You know a couple of fig collectors who would be very interested in this tree. Big elongated figs. Very deeply lobed leaves. Here they said grow figs, there are no parasites on figs. Now we have specialized parasites eating the fig leaves already. But I'm a specialized parasite eating the fig fruits. No. Look at the size of this one, but it's still unripe. The ripe one is already rotten. But there doesn't seem to be a single fruit in the sweet spot where it's ripe, but not yet rotten. Pity. Yeah, definitely medieval stuff here. So many rose hips and quinces and blackberries, but the fruits are not good right now. Another fig. This is one of the very few areas in Germany where figs are more or less traditional since the 20th century. Yeah, but nothing in accessible proximity. Also look at the little medieval lanes. Most of the lanes in old medieval towns were like this. If I was much fatter, I wouldn't be able to squeeze in here. And this is one of the good ones. I've seen somewhere you squeeze through, you scrape both walls. They are not unusual here in those little towns and villages. Typical half-timbered houses. Yeah, that's the old town. I smelled Zwiebelkuchen. I already smelled it a couple 100 meters ago, but it didn't click. Zwiebelkuchen or onion cake. It's the typical cake it's a salty cake they make for a couple weeks in autumn, and you drink it together with new wine or cider. Yeah, you ask for this stuff at the end of October. they get insulted and they say, what? No, the onion cake season is over. This is only until mid-October. Now it's chestnuts and goose season. That's what we serve now. Around here they are very traditional, much more traditional than in my area in Heidelberg. There they serve what the tourists want and call it traditional. Here they are really traditional, and they have quite a big tourist business here, especially people coming here on the weekends and getting trunk loads full of wine, fruits, veggies, preserves and other stuff back home. Right now it's not the weekend, and this is not one of the very touristy places despite being a spa town. In the next weeks I'll try to show you a couple of those places that basically live from this weekend tourism. It's quite a nice and traditional and inclusive thing around here. But for now, let's include something into my stomach because I'm hungry. Alfalfa. It's good for horses, cannot be bad for me. When I was a teenager, my grandfather let me collect this on the neighbor's meadow and would make burek with it. And here plantain. Tastes like mushrooms. We didn't eat it in Bulgaria, but in other countries it's eaten a lot. Beauty berry. This is supposed to be Calicarpa americana and it's supposed to be really tasty, but for me it's bitter. Not very bitter, but bitter enough so that I don't like it. Look at that. Inside this beauty berry shrub, an ornamental apple seedling. A feral ornamental apple seedling is growing. Also a feral Oregon grape seedling is growing. Those ornamental apples are not good. Still a trace of astringency and not much sweetness, but in a couple weeks they're gonna be nice high quality apples. Oh, look at that. Has somebody foraged the amaranthus tips here? This doesn't look like gardening. It looks like somebody has collected, see, the tips of this amaranthus and this big one over here, and this one just the young tender tips. That's foraging, folks. That's not weeding. Interesting. Is it so good? Tastes a bit like beets, which is strange because the beet relative here is the lamb's quarters. Good stuff. Here's a mustard. Don't know which one, but nah, not very mustardy. Of course, there is also dangerous stuff here. You shouldn't pick Mercurialis or Datura. But among them, takes a test. I wonder who. Here, more amaranthus has been harvested. All the amaranthus, except for this one, have been harvested, but they did not harvest the lamb's quarters. Neither did they harvest the purslane. I'm afraid the purslane is a little bit too close to the ground here. Delicious. I want more purslane. Okay, Lamb's quarter. More purslane. Good stuff, yeah. Which culture do you think, folks, has foraged all the amaranthus, all the amaranthus tops? Beautiful, beautiful old train station. The Himalaya palm. The heart is very tasty, but of course you destroy the palm. Also, it's called the hemp palm because those fibers are very strong and used for ropes and mats and stuff. Hops used to make beer. And here an olive tree with big olives. I want to harvest some big olives in autumn and pickle them, but those are not ripe. I want ripe olives. Here a hawthorn. Some of the native ones or something similar. Fruits are edible, but nothing special. Look at that soapwort. It's actually better than soap in a survival situation. It often grows near water, but not always. And you know why it's better than soap? Imagine you're camping somewhere in an area with not a lot of water. Your hands are covered with fat from the stuff you barbecued and grime, soot from the fire, all kinds of dirt, and you want to get your hands clean. Usually we will not have soap around it, even if you have soap. For soap you need a lot of water. This stuff produces a lather, a foam, similar to soap, which cleans your hands very neatly, but you need very little water to wash it off because it's not slimy like soap. Very good stuff, especially for camping and survival situations, soapwort. Also, different parts of the plant produce different results. You wash your hands with the leaves, and your hands will end up smelling a little bit like green peas, like random greenery. You wash your hands with the flowers and you perfume them. And for really hardcore stuff like washing clothes and stuff, you could dig out the roots, because the roots have a lot of saponins. They are much stronger. Very useful plant. Of course not edible due to the high saponin content, but yeah, very useful, very good plant. Very wide distribution. Can find it almost everywhere in Europe and in many other places. Right next to the soapwort, Lactuca seriola. This is the wild ancestor of the common lettuce. You know, the stuff that McDonald's puts on the hamburger, the green stuff. Well, people have told me that they forage this stuff and usually cook it as a pot herb together with a lot of other things. For me it's too bitter and not nice enough. I prefer the domesticated version, to be honest. Here a bladder nut is breaking apart this train stopper. No, not a bladder nut, a bladder senna, bladder bush. Very beautiful. The fruits are very beautiful when they are fresh. Bladders with very bright red and yellow and orange colors, and before that the flowers are also very bright and yellow. Right now it still looks spectacular, but not that much. It's not edible, it's toxic but very ornamental. Another thing that's toxic but very ornamental is the oleander. It grows in Mediterranean rivers and it flowers in summer. Here you can see the last couple flowers. It flowers during the tourist season. So it's planted everywhere in Mediterranean towns, but be careful, don't eat any part of this. This is incredibly, incredibly toxic. Not much else to forage around here. Oh, Geranium purpureum. This spread in the area in the 90s and then spread just along railroads and especially at train stations. So I had a colleague much older than me. He would travel around this area of Germany, stop at every little train station and record whether this thing existed there or not. It couldn't be found like some other plants. Back then couldn't be found anywhere else than on the train stations. And he actually wrote a paper, the distribution of this thing. And the distribution was only at the train stations. Of course, he checked a couple other locations too, but back then it was a plant that was really only to be found at train stations, mostly at bigger ones. It traveled later to the smaller ones. So you can create a paper very easily. I don't think it's edible. Here between the rails, old man's beard, one of the most invasive plants, for example, in New Zealand or in the eastern US. In Europe it's also invasive, but because it's native to most countries, people don't see it as a big invasive problem. Well, being native to a country doesn't mean that it's supposed to grow in all parts of the country, in every habitat. Also, it's phototoxic. So part of my job is to eradicate it, and you need gloves and long sleeves and stuff for that. Oh, here is my train. So folks, this was foraging in the little beautiful spa town of Bad Bergzabern. Stay tuned for a lot more fruit videos from the beautiful, incredibly fruit rich country of Germany. And of course, don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe.